Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com and welcome to this first video in learning how to program in C Sharp. Generally, when you're learning any program language, there's really four main things you need to know to have your foundation. And then after that, you just start learning all the different libraries and just getting used to the language and syntax. So the first thing you need to do is just kind of learn the basic syntax and variables and operators, which is what we're going to be covering today. After you do that, you need to understand the control flow, which is all the ifs and loops. So how does my program branch out into a bunch of different possibilities? Then you need to learn how to make functions, which will be our third video, and our fourth video will be how to create objects and classes. Okay? Once you know those four things for any language, you kind of have the core. Then it's just a matter of practicing and taking on different problems and learning some of the extra features. Now, C Sharp, a little history on C Sharp. C Sharp was created by Microsoft. It was part of it in response to Java's popularity at the time in the mid 90s. They wanted something that was sort of primarily targeted towards Windows because Java had this whole thing about, hey, write once and run anywhere. You can run Java everywhere. And Microsoft's like, no, I don't want people running stuff off Windows. Then we need to create our own pretty awesome language, more that can compete with Java, that sort of keeps people in that sort of Windows environment in the same way the Objective-C kept people in the Mac environment. So this website is called REPL.it, okay, REPL.it. It's a great, if you don't have a REPL.it account, start one. It's a great place to practice programming, so you don't have to kind of install everything on your computer. You can just practice and try it out right here. So just to give you a quick tour, so right here I have a C Sharp REPL started. Now C Sharp is a compiled language, which means that when the compiler compiles the program, it has to kind of know, where does your program start? Okay, so that way it can start piecing it all together. So that's why generally in compiled languages like Go, C Sharp, C++, you always have some sort of main function. And that's the same in every program you write. So when you compile this program, this right here tells the program, here's where the actual instructions are. You might have stuff outside of this. So I could actually define variables above. I could go define variables over here, but I can't put instructions over here. I can define functions, classes. I can just basically prepare the board, make my tools, but technically the actual instructions as far as what to put on the screen and stuff like that all comes from inside the main function. Okay, so that's, again, these two lines here. Cool. Okay, so basically our program is all this stuff over here. So the first thing you always want to learn when you learn a new programming language is how to print to the console. Okay, so in Python you type print, in JavaScript you type console log, in Go it's fmt print, in Clojure it was print again. In C Sharp it's going to be console.writeLine, and C Sharp is case sensitive. So if you don't put a capital W and you don't put a capital L, okay, you're going to be very stressed out when you're wondering why does it keep throwing an error. Okay, now the way REPL.it works is as you write your code, you can run your code, and the results of your code shows up here in the console. So this first line here writes the word, so we're saying console.writeLine, and then whenever you run a function generally can take a parameter, which it shows up in a set of parentheses after the function. So in this case, we're calling the writeLine function. So we're telling it that, hey, the thing we want you to write is variable types. So that's why that shows up right here in the console. Because that's the first thing you don't want to learn. What are the different types of variables in that language? Because C Sharp is what's called a statically typed language, which means when you make a variable, meaning you want to store information somewhere, you have to tell it what kind of information you're storing. Now this can get really annoying because you got to remember that one, you got to declare it. So when I make this variable here, I actually have to say, hey, I'm making an int, meaning an integer value. And my variable is called myInt. Now the integer value, which means a whole number, that I'm storing in that variable is 10. Okay, so myInt equals 10. But if I didn't put this int prefix telling it that it's supposed to be an integer, it'll throw me an error. And if I try to put a number in there that is not an integer, it'll throw me an error, which can get annoying from a debugging point of view. And especially if you're someone who spent a lot of time doing JavaScript where you don't have to worry about this. But the benefit is it helps keep your code clean, because then when you run the code, it's going to be much more easier to be able to tell your mistakes if you made a mistake somewhere, because you explicitly said this is what it's supposed to have. So if you try to put something that's not supposed to be in there, that means you did something wrong. So it can make you aware of it. One language that has more dynamic typing or inferred typing, where the interpreter, so for example, Python and JavaScript are interpreted languages. So since they're interpreted languages, they don't have to have a main function. It just reads the code and interprets it from top to bottom. But in JavaScript, you don't have to tell what type it is. The program will figure it out for you. Same thing in Python. It'll be like, okay, you put it, the number you're trying to store here is an integer, so this must be an integer. But maybe you didn't mean to make it an integer variable, and now you don't know. Your programming environment's not going to catch that. So it's just easier to write when you have that, when you don't have to sit there and explicitly say, hey, my variable is this or my variable is that. But it also means it might be hard to debug later. So that's the benefit of static typing. If you're wondering, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to say my variable, my int here, is an int? Okay, this is clearly an integer. It's 10. It's a whole number. Cool. So there I'm declaring a variable. I'm saying, hey, I have a variable where I'm storing information. I'm going to store the number 10, and it's of type int, meaning a whole number. Then there's float, which is one type of sort of decimal number. But when you declare a float number, you actually have to give it the prefix f at the end, or suffix f at the end. If not, it'll throw you an error. It'll think that you're trying to create a double, which is just your normal decimal number. Okay. And then after each one, you can just console. And the thing is that once you actually assigned a value to the variable, wherever you put your variable, it's like you put that value in there. So here, I'm going to write the value of my int. And what do we see here? It prints 10. And then for my floats, prints 10.1 and 10.1 for the double. Okay. Now, here's a char variable, okay, which represents one single character. So in this case, the character A, I print it, and there's A. Now, what if I want to print out words and stuff? That's several characters, and that's called a string, which is essentially really an array of characters. Okay, and then the last one is bool, which only has two values, true and false. So basically what happens here is I'm saying my bool, which is a Boolean variable of Boolean type, is going to equal the result of 2 less than 3. Is 2 less than 3? That's true. So what does it return? True. Okay, so when I print out my bool, it comes back with true. And there's only two possibilities with a Boolean variable. So if I try to assign it like the number 2, it'll just come out as true. Because pretty much everything is true except 0 and false, pretty much. Everything else will be treated and assumed to be true unless you put it in some sort of expression like this. Cool. So those are the types of variables, and then again, the prefix you need to put in to declare the different types of variables. The next thing you need to learn is the math operators. So for example, here I'm going to console log, and we're going to operate on two 2's. So here, in this first one, we're doing 2 plus 2. So how do I do that? The plus symbol, pretty straightforward. And we get the result of 4. Okay, and you see here I printed math operator so you can to break up what's here in the console a little bit better. The next one, 2 minus 2, well, that's 0. 2 times 2, so we're going to use an asterisk for multiplication. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 modulus 2. What if you don't know what modulus is? Okay, well, modulus, there's a couple different ways of thinking about it. The way I like to think about it is I have the first number is the amount of slices of pizza that I have, and the second number is the amount of people I got to split it up. So if I have 2 slices of pizza, and then there's 2 people, I can give each of them a slice of pizza, and I have no pizza left over. So thus, modulus is 0. But essentially what that tells us is that 2 evenly goes into the number 2. It's divisible by 2. Okay? So generally if you get the result is 0, it just means that number is evenly divisible by that number. Now if I were to change this into, let's say I have 7 pieces of pizza and 5 people to share it against, well, here's what would happen. I would give each of the 5 people 1 slice of pizza, but I don't have enough pizza to give them another slice each. So I'm left with 2 extra slices of pizza. So the result should be 2. And there we see the new result is 2. Okay, so if you think of that pizza analogy, it really helps you think through modulus. But the real reason you generally use modulus is to figure out if a number is divisible by another. So in this case, 7 is not divisible by 5, because if it was, it would have given me back 0. Comparison operators. So you want to compare 2 numbers or 2 things or 2 variables. Well, if you want to see if they're equal to each other, you don't use the equal sign, okay? Because equals, like this, is what's called an assignment operator. It's saying, hey, this variable, my string, equals, hey mom, I'm programming. So whenever you use equals, again, that's going to be assignment. So if I want to actually test for equality, say, hey, does this equal this? I need 2 equal signs. So 2 equal 2. Now, does 2 equal 2? Yes, it does. So that's why it gave me back true. Is 2 greater than 2? Nope. So false. Is 2 less than 2? Nope. So that's false. Is 2 less than or equal than 2? That's true. Is 2 greater than or equal than 2? True. Now this means not, so not equal. Okay, so whenever you think of the exclamation point, that's a not. So this means not equal. So 2 is not equal to 3. Well, that is a true statement. So that gives me back true. But maybe you want to check multiple things and see if multiple things are true or false. So that's where the and the or symbol come in. So here what I'm saying is 2 greater than and equal than 2? That's true. But, and, so for this to be true, both things have to be true because it's an and. 2 ands mean and. So this needs to be true and this needs to be true. But is 2 greater than 2? No, that's false. So since this is false and this is true, they're not both true, so that statement is false. This is or. Okay, so it just means this or this is true. As long as one of them are true, you're true. Okay, so this is true. So in that case, this is going to return true. Okay, so those are all sort of your expressions, your way you can express what you're trying to say using variables, using different operators. Okay, in the next video, we're going to talk about control flow. We'll talk about how you can use all this information to start saying, hey, do this if this is true, do this so many times, that kind of thing. So we're programming in C#. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day and enjoy. This is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com.